calidad, institucionalización y sostenibilidad, y por último, la presentación de la propuesta en sí del CERAM. Muy buenos días con todos. A continuación, vamos a tener la exposición de Emmanuel Noel con el tema Estrategia de largo plazo para la gestión de riesgos en Burundi y Programa de Capacitación Anexo. ¿Me permiten leer parte de su bibliografía? Emmanuel Noel es el gerente del Programa de Reducción de Riesgos de Desastres en la Organización Internacional de Migración de Burundi. Ha trabajado con la Comisión de la OIM durante más de 10 años. Comenzó con esta organización en Haití en el 2011, donde estuvo a cargo del desarrollo de propuestas de proyectos, la implementación de todas las actividades del proyecto de reducción de riesgos de desastres, así como el enlace del programa de reducción de riesgos de la misión de la OIM en Haití, con otras agencias de la ONU o ONGs asociadas y autoridades gubernamentales relevantes. También se ha desempeñado como un punto focal de preparación y respuesta ante emergencias dentro de la misión de la OIM en Haití. Adicionalmente, ha cumplido varias asignaciones a corto plazo desde Haití para apoyar las misiones de la OIM en Sierra Leona, Togo, Mauritania y Senegal, en el desarrollo en implementación de proyectos de reducción de riesgos. Antes de unirse a la OIM, trabajó con la ONG como el American Refugee Committee de Haití y también el Building Damage. Emmanuel tiene una licenciatura en Ingeniería Civil de la Universidad de Quisqueya y una maestría en Cooperación Internacional y Ayuda Humanitaria del Instituto Calú de España. También asistió al Instituto Politécnico de Virginia y a su Universidad Estatal en los Estados Unidos para obtener un título en Gestión de Cuencas Hidrográficas. Antes de darle la palabra a Emmanuel, me gustaría recordarles que ustedes pueden colocar sus preguntas en nuestra página de Facebook para poder, después que concluya la presentación, dirigirlas. Emmanuel, welcome and thank you for being here today with us. Let me stop sharing my screen in order for you. Start your presentation. It is an honor for us to have you here. Thank you. You can start.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. It's really a great pleasure to be here to share with you our experience in Burundi in terms of long-term IOM national plan for Burundi and supporting the IOM capacity development program. And also a big thank to our friend Carlos to put us in contact with you. Can I please let me share my screen so that I can start the presentation?
I think you have the permission to do that.
Thank you so much. So can you see perfectly my screen, my presentation?
Yes, it's very clear.
Perfect, great. As I mentioned initially during this a couple of minutes, I'm going to present you the IOM National Plan for Burundi and in long-term approach in partnership with IOM.
Sorry to interrupt you. We are seeing the other screen, maybe, not the entire slide.
Sorry, let me. It's okay now?
No, it's the same.
No, maybe let me just stop sharing and sharing again the screen.
Now it's okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Great. In terms of contents for my presentation for the couple of next minutes, I would like to first of all start presenting to you the national context of Burundi, and also talking a little bit about the long-term comprehensive DIM national program that RM is implementing in Burundi, in the comprehensive long-term DRM capacity development program. And then I will be concluded by the developing local capacities and what we have in plans in terms of CERAM, the Center of Excellence for Risk Assessment in Burundi. Now, in terms of national context, so Burundi is among one of the countries most affected by natural events. As you can see, for example, based on data collected by RM Data Tracking Matrix Department. So from January 2018 to May 2021, there are about more 145 extreme natural events in Burundi, and the main hazard that generally affected the country are torrential rains, floods, strong rains, landslides, and hail. And the torrential rains are the main hazard that generally cause a bigger impact in terms of affected person and displacement person in Burundi. Now, based on this event from January 2018 and 2020, as you can see, more than 200,000 persons has been affected by extreme natural events, and this event also caused displacement of more than 75,000 individuals. So it's a way to let you understand that the reality in Burundi in terms of natural event, it's really critical. Now, the big impacts of this kind of event in the country, as I've just shown you, it's mainly related to displacement and also to livelihood. And based on that, this situation or this kind of natural events have a big impact in the economy of the country and create poverty, lack of food security, and subsequently the dependency on the international aid. And according to the data collected by International Organization for Migration in Burundi, 85% of internally displaced person in Burundi are due to natural disaster. And just because more than 80% of Burundians live or work on agriculture, so the agriculture is the backbone of the economy of Burundi. So the impact of the disaster affected significantly the economic of the country. So based on that, RM as a key partner of Burundi authorities try to implement a disaster risk management long-term approach in the country. RM in Burundi is the DRM leader, as RM is the lead of DRR working group and climate change adaptation, and also RM is the lead of the Pillar 4 of the United Nations Development Assessment Framework. So based on that, we, as the IM leader in the country, we had the opportunity to support the government in saving life and satisfy the needs of displaced people. But in addition to that, the most important in what we're doing is we contribute to reduce the problem of displaced people in terms of emergency response project and rapid response intervention, all kind of rapid assistance that we could give to the disaster affected family. But in addition to that, we also contribute to protect the livelihood and property of Burundian people. As I mentioned to you, the agriculture is the backbone of the economy of the country. So through our approach, we try to protect the livelihood, the main need agriculture and property of Burundian population. By doing that, we significantly contribute to reduce poverty and promote food security and contribute to sustainable development. Because this is the main goal. The main objective is what we can do to reinforce or to strengthen the sustainable development of the country. As you know, just working in terms of emergency response, emergency preparedness and response to save life is not enough. It's not enough just because the disaster in the country is like a recurrent situation. So the same event that we're facing this year, it will be happening next year. So that's why we thought by implementing only emergency preparedness and response project is not the way, the best way to address the Burundi issues, because Burundi will never be able to develop by just implementing one flat project to provide rapid assistance to disaster affected families. So that's why we were thinking in developing this long-term comprehensive DIM national program for Burundi to contribute really to sustainable development of the country. Now, for that program, in terms of background, as the existing risk in the country is the really result of 100 years of non-properly planned growth investment. So as you can see, the difference between a developed countries and a capitalist country, and the way they manage urban planning, it's really important in the way to assess the level of risk in the country. So just because the existing risk, the result of 100 years of non-properly planned growth and investment, that's why there's no need to blame anybody. And another key information that I would like also to highlight, as I mentioned previously, just implement a small or isolated projects will do very little to solve the problem, because it's really a recurrent problem. What we can do to reinforce the resilience of the community to solve the problem so that they can be part of the solution to the existing problem. And that's why the best way to address the existing problem, the existing risk the country, is through long-term programs with measurable goals, monitoring and evaluation mechanism are needed. So the focus is not to evaluate the implementation of one project, but it's moved from evaluation of implementation of project to evaluation of impact of a long-term program. So Now, in terms of the main goal for the Burundi DRM programs, now, first of all, the long-term DRM program that we implementing in Burundi is aligned with Burundi main development goals that are mentioned in the National Development Plan elaborated recently. So the objective, the final purpose, is really to promote sustainable development as it is the best way to address the existing problem in the country. And then the key goal is also to developing local capacity. When you're talking about the development of local capacity, it will be at technical and international level. And this is the number one priority, because even though IOM is here to support the national government to address the existing needs of the country, to implement the long-term DRM program, but if we don't have at local level the appropriate capacity to continue the same work, the country will be always dependent on international assistance. So the best way to overcome this challenge is to developing local capacity that will help to promote self-sufficiency and reduce dependence on international assistance. Now, in terms of areas of work, what we know, that's I just mentioned that the DRM implementation that we will promote, that we are implementing, is really to support, to promote sustainable development in the country. And another aspect is also to ensure that we have evidence-based decision in policy making, because sometimes the decision makers, they just take decisions without having any knowledge about the current risk the population in the specific areas are facing. Now we during the national risk assessment in the country, it's like a project which covers the entire country. This will provide key recommendations to support evidence-based decision and policy making. And also, we trying to reinforce the capacity in the country in terms of real-time information in early warning system. That's why now we are already preparing a project using mobile technology to facilitate the population. Everyone in the country should be aware of the disaster risk to which they are exposed, and to know what to do in terms of before, during, and after the event, and also to support the national authorities in terms of actions to do to provide rapid assistance of the potential disaster affected families. And then again, as I mentioned previously, the key aspect of this program is really capacity development for the IOM. Even though we have developed lots of tool deliverables in this project, but if in situ in the country we don't have high-level technicians to continue implementing the same work, the country will continue to be dependent on international support. So through the capacity development, we develop the self-sufficiency. In terms of areas of work, another aspect is also to ensure the mainstreaming DRM into Burundi's culture, so that anyone in the country can know in the area they live in which kind of disaster risk the communities are facing, and what should be the actions they can be involved to protect themselves, their family, to the major impact of a potential disaster in their country. And to achieve this goal, we need to ensure the incorporation of DRM into formal education. That means schools, university. As you know, education is the key of freedom. So we need to have like DRM at any level of education stage, primary, secondary, and university, because the objective is really to incorporate planning and prevention principle in the formation of children and young professionals, because it's much better to invest in the children early in terms of disaster prevention, and then later it will be easy for us to work with them in terms of planning and prevention principle. And then the other aspects of areas of work for us is really the mass media and professional communicators. So that's why we propose to develop like DRM capacity of mass media, because through mass media is the good strategy or the good way to achieve the entire community, because they are in contact with the entire community, So as soon as we enforce the capacities of DRM, of the mass media and professional communicators, to help them involved in terms of disaster prevention, because generally the mass media and professional communicators, they focus on the impact on the disasters, but they should also be involved in terms of prevention, how they can sensitize the community to get involved in planning prevention to minimize the disaster risk to which they are exposed. As I mentioned, that's the best way to reach every sector of the community and shape opinion, behavior through the mass media. So now what we're doing in Burundi, as I mentioned previously, we currently performing a national risk assessment. It's really like a multi-hazard probabilistic risk assessment in Burundi. It's the first time we have such comprehensive project in the country that covers the entire country, and to develop a state of the art in terms of risk assessment in the country. And then through this current project, we targeted like 5 main hazards, including winds, flooding, landslide, earthquakes, and torrential winds. So through this exercise, we done it in addition to the national risk assessment. We also planning to perform a multi-hazard local assessment in 5 selected hotspot areas. So this project will let us have key deliverables to support risk awareness activities at the nation, at the country, at the national level, and also to provide key recommendations that could be integrated in disaster risk in national and local policy and decision making. And one of the key achievements of this of what we're doing in terms of the project is to like having all the risk data and information compiled and generated by the risk assessment project will be integrated, organized, and made available through a disaster risk information portal. So that will be incredible in terms of deliverable for this project. But even though the outputs or the deliverable of this project will be useful, if we don't have, like at local level, appropriate technicians or high-level authorities to continue or to continue implementing how to take into consideration the recommendations of the project and how to consider them useful, So it will be useless. That's why for us, we also working with representatives of all sectors to create a community of practice. Through this, that will help every key actors, key sectors in the country will be aware of what we're doing through the Ministerial Status Assessment, and also to know how to take into consideration the deliverable of this project in the sector. And then, as I mentioned previously, in terms of what we're doing currently in Burundi, we're preparing a project for real-time disaster information. It's really a key aspect to support in terms of early warning system, in terms of what the population to know, so that everyone in the country, every member in the community should be aware of the most disaster risk in the areas they live, and what they can do to protect themselves, their family, before, during, and after the event. And also, one other key thing that we're doing is like the implementation of the IOM capacity program for mass media. Last May, we had the first session of the training. As I mentioned previously, it is really a key aspect, because when we have like a training session in a place with like 40 or 250 or 40 to 50 participants, so there are millions of people that should be aware of what we discuss, and unfortunately they don't have the opportunities. It's impossible for them to be present at the session. So that's why we think having the mass media, a professional communicators trained in BIM, in disaster risk management, is a critical way to promote the risk culture to Burundi situation, to Burundi. And as I mentioned, last May we had the first training session. In the coming July, we will have like a second session. It's not like one training; it's really a certified program to ensure that the key professional communicators are trained in the key aspect of their capacity, so that they can by themselves share this information in their communities, and be involved in the implementation of disaster risk management project. And then, so based on that, as I mentioned previously, there's no way to achieve this goal or the objective just through one project. So that's why we develop a long-term comprehensive GIM capacity development program in collaboration with a new donor, EU, and there are other donors that are really interested to support the long-term approach. As everyone knows, everyone should start understanding that this is the best way to address the existing problems, the existing risks in the country. Now, in terms of the comprehensive long-term GIM capacity development program, we are implementing in Burundi. So, in terms of motivation, why we propose that, why we propose to move from one project to a program. First of all, we do understand that like building capacities should be the priority of international organizations. So because we won't be always here to support, we need to ensure that at the country level, they are their own capacities to support the sustainable development of the country. The second main motivation for us to involve in the implementation of the long-term DIM capacity approach is like we do understand that Africa need to be self-sufficient, not always have international organizations or international experts that come in the country. And sometimes the external experts, they don't even know the Africa context. So as the Africa has huge technical background, so that's why we thought it's really crucial to ensure the reinforcement of the capacity of the national expert to address this issue. And then, as I mentioned to you now, as Burundi is implementing a state-of-the-art national probabilistic assessment, so we need to have at national level key technicians to understand the result of the project we're doing, and also the DRM recommendations and the risk information portal that will be delivered by the end of the project. So if we don't have at the country level these capacities, unfortunately, that will be only one project, and that will be anyone who won't use the very key deliverable of the project without having at the country level technical capacities. And then that's why we need really to develop the local capacities, so that they can understand what we're doing in terms of the disaster assessment. They can use the result properly, and how they can apply and improve result in recommendations based on what they have learned in the project implementation. That's why in this project we have a key aspect in terms of stakeholders engagement, because even though we have like a consortium of risk mapping, international experts to support IOM in the implementation of this nationwide disaster assessment, but we have a key component of the project in terms of stakeholders engagement, to ensure that national experts are appropriate of the result of the project, understand what we're doing, and they can continue doing the same after the project, the program end. And as I mentioned, thus the strategy, this approach will help developing a sense of ownership, and will promote continuation and sustainability without like external support or external expert, but promoting the internal experts. So in terms of objectives of this long-term program, it's really we will promote like the incorporation of all sectors of society in long-term efforts to minimize the impact of disasters and enhance the resilience of community at different levels. So through this program, we've got different kind of specific objective. First of all, is to mainstream the RM into all sectors of society, especially the general public, because we are confident that every member of the community should be able to understand the cause and characteristics of disaster risk to which they are subjected, as well as be aware of feasible, effective mitigation options to protect lives and property. So that through this objective, we will have effective collaboration with the mass media and community leaders in order to achieve this objective. And the second specific objective for this program is to incorporate disaster risk management into decision making, development planning, and investment programming, because we know that effective disaster risk management requires the institutional, legal, and financial frameworks that enable the incorporation of risk information and knowledge into sound decisions. So that's why to achieve this goal, like the creation and mentoring of a community of practice with key stakeholders at national and local levels is crucial. And in terms of a third specific objective targeted through this long-term DRM program is to incorporate DRM into professional practice, because we are convinced that all the professionals in charge of planning, designing, and constructing, implementing urban and rural development plans, they should have the knowledge and training necessary to perform their roles and activities properly and effectively. Because we know that disaster risk management is not the affair or the thing of one person, of one institution. We should have the entire community, the entire key professional involved in this approach. In the fourth specific objective targeted in this long-term approach is really to increase disaster risk information management capabilities. This is the key aspect because we know disaster risk management requires huge amounts of information, not only on hazard, but also in terms of exposed element, population, economy, infrastructure, livelihood that can be lost. So that's why we have to have key experts that know how to collect data on disaster risk information, how to manage this data, and how they can use this found data. So, and the last specific objective through the program is really to generate and optimize resources for the IOM. So to that, mainly it's really to ensure that the organizations, government, and institutions that support financially the implementation of the IOM program should have a better understanding of the root causes, characteristics, geographic distribution of disaster risk. It's a way to let them how to prioritize the funding. Sometimes we found donors that just put money in one project and in area that not even exposed to disaster risk. So as soon as we've got like the key donors well informed, trained on disaster risk management, it's critical to facilitate the implementation of projects to support, to promote stable development. Now, in terms of targeted audience.
Sorry, Emmanuel, to interrupt you. Do you have only a couple of minutes to finish your presentation?
In terms of targeted audience for the implementation of the long-term IOM program, first of all, we target academic and technical institutions. This includes universities, technical institutes, and technical research centers in the public and private sector. We also target practitioners, all relevant professional associations, engineers, geologists, urban planners, development specialists, and also stakeholders representing all sectors of society, including economy, health, education, agriculture, infrastructure. That's why, as I mentioned previously, we have developed this committee of practice to the project we're implementing, and also donors and private sector to international NGO donor organization, the private sector, to ensure all these key actors are well trained on the IOM that will help them know how to better prioritize the funding program. And as I mentioned also previously, one of our key targets is this mass media and professional communications, because we know it's critical if we want to access or to train or to provide support in terms of the IOM to the entire community. The best channel to do that is through mass media and professional communications. And now we also, in terms of target audience, is like the Ministry of Education, because as I mentioned to you previously, the Christian education is the key to development. And now as we're planning to ensure the incorporation of the IOM into the existing curricula, so we're planning to work closely with the Ministry of Education. Now, to conclude, the last chapter is about like the developing local capacities. In Burundi is now as being selected as the regional center for risk management, but in reality, it's just the name. The picture, as you can see here, it's when we organize the first training session in the IOM for the professional communicators. It was at the building, but the building exists. But what we're planning to do to the existing structure is really to operationalize the Center of Excellence for its assessment and management. So because the idea, as you're doing in Ecuador right now, is ensure that the existing center to function as an open platform to develop country-specific practice, disaster risk assessment, and in use and policy decision making. So that's the plan. Now the building exists, but we would like really to operationalize the existing center, and also to ensure their collaboration in exchange technical support and services with other countries in the region in Eastern Africa. Now, and also we would like to reinforce the capacities of the key actors, promote capacity development by fostering collaboration between academic institutions, universities, government agencies to improve like public policy and decision making based on the good understanding of risk and disaster, because the objective is really to develop the culture of risk within Burundi, and also to collaborate and interact with other SEAMs, as now you starting implementing the SEAM in Ecuador. So the idea is also to have the opportunity to lead like the key actors of the existing center in Burundi should work closely with other SEAM, even in China or in Ecuador, to have expert group implement partners for the generation of knowledge products and the provision of integrated support to assessment and management at all levels. So now in terms, this is the goal in terms of areas of work for the existing center that is not operational now, but through this long-term DIM project, we would like to ensure that through the SEAM we got like disaster risk, reinforce the capacity in disaster risk assessment in terms of country situation analysis, national risk assessment, local risk assessment, disaster risk analysis, and also reinforce the capacity in terms of information integration to have like a national e-library, national disaster observatory, as I've seen this already exists in the SEAM in China. So that's the goal, that's the dream for the existing center in Burundi, and also having a national risk information system and a national alert system, as the early warning system currently in Burundi is very poor. And also we would like to reinforce the country capacity development in terms of technical capabilities, in terms of institutional strengthening, in cooperation in education, in cooperation in decision making. And as I mentioned to you, so we've got the center, it's just exists, the building exists, but through the proposed long-term project, we expect to have an active center of excellence, an active center excellence for its management, for its assessment and management. So that's all. Thank you so much. So if you have any questions, comments, I'm ready to respond. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for your great presentation. It was really clear, and I am sure that we are learning a lot of important lessons in order to build our community resilience through the creation of our SEAM Ecuador. If you allow me, I am going to summarize in Spanish the main aspects of your presentation for our audience. And it will only take maybe 1-2 minutes, and then we can continue with the questions. Thank you, Emmanuel.
It's okay.
So, a ver, prácticamente lo que nos había mencionado Emmanuel, y voy a resaltar los aspectos más importantes de los cuales nosotros podemos aprender como parte de las estrategias, como parte del trabajo que están realizando en Burundi. Lo que tal vez más llamó la atención era esta frase que él incluso la incorporó en color rojo, que decía: salvar vidas no es suficiente, porque esto se va a repetir el siguiente año y el siguiente año, ¿verdad? Y de esta manera, Burundi como tal, y claro, ahí podemos tomar esta lección, nosotros como Ecuador o cualquier otro país que simplemente repita los desastres, nunca va a tener la oportunidad de desarrollarse. Eso como primer aspecto. De ahí, dentro de las estrategias que ellos plantean en la parte de la gestión del riesgo, algo que es muy importante por considerar son estos programas que ellos los están considerando para eh, que tengan una duración en el tiempo, ¿no es cierto? Y para eso deben implementar metas que sean medidas, y también estrategias de monitoreo y evaluación de estos mecanismos. Asimismo, enfocan esos esfuerzos en las universidades, en las escuelas, para generar esta conciencia desde un inicio, o eso es lo que se pretende. Y eso es algo que nosotros también debemos aprender para dar la conciencia, así como nos han indicado algunos de los expositores. Asimismo, nos hablaba de que una de las mejores estrategias es atacar a lo que son los profesionales de la comunicación, que ellos saben cómo precisamente llegar, ¿no es cierto? Cómo llegar a la gente, cómo llegar a las comunidades y de esta forma ayudar a los técnicos a transmitir el mensaje que se promueve a través de una gestión adecuada del riesgo. Como parte de sus estrategias adicionales, ellos pretenden desarrollar estas capacidades locales y claro, para eso es lo que contamos o cuentan con el CERAM, y esta es la idea también nosotros aquí en el Ecuador de implementar el CERAM, y para eso se necesitan alianzas estratégicas, trabajar en conjunto con el gobierno y asimismo con entidades que deseen invertir, ¿verdad? En este tipo de esfuerzos. Y al final el propósito también es, a través de estas diferentes estrategias, generar esta pertinencia, empoderarse de la gestión del riesgo para que en el tiempo sea una iniciativa de carácter sustentable y también, si me permiten agregar, también sostenible. Entonces, claro, aquí intervienen varios actores y de eso es lo que nosotros podemos aprender varias lecciones. Entonces, bueno, una vez que tal vez realizado este resumen de estas ideas principales, voy a permitir a continuación realizar algunas preguntas a nuestro expositor. Okay, thank you so much, Emmanuel, for your time. I think that maybe we can address a few questions. Besides the media mass, what do you consider is the most effective strategy to promote community resilience in the face of disasters in undeveloped countries?
Thank you so much for this question. Yeah, I know, as I mentioned previously, like the mass media is really critical to, in terms of risk awareness to at community level. But we know that we should also encourage like the community-based disaster risk activities, ensure that the local organizations, community-based organizations are well trained in terms of disaster risk management. And also, as soon as we got like the key leaders, church leaders and the school leaders are trained in the IOM, that it's also a way to ensure that every member in the communities is well informed about disaster risk management. Because in our project, we have like a huge component of community-based disaster risk management, because we know it's really a good strategy to work closely with the community at the community level, to support them in terms of the development of emergency family plan, because it's like the colleague mentioned previously, as soon as we have like trained community-based organizations, trained leaders, so it will be cascade training. It will be up to them to replicate the same knowledge about disaster risk management to other people in the communities. Certainly, the mass media is really critical to cover a huge community, but in addition to that, we should also put focus in the key leaders in the communities. For example, when you have a pastor, the pastor has a church as a huge member. So as soon as the leaders of the church are trained on DRM, it's a way to facilitate the cascading of DRM training at community level. So as I mentioned to you, in addition to mass media, we can put focus on key leaders in the community, key community members to support the DRM at community level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for your advice, for your response. And I hope that at some point in the near future, you can join us in order to strengthen our CBRN Ecuador.